We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Please be seated if you can do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private John Stanley Reid. John Reid was born in 1898 in Burke, New South Wales, the son of Alexander and Mary Reid. When he was about 3 years old, his family moved to Enfield in Sydney's west. Known as Jack to his family and friends, he attended Croydon Park Public School and joined the Senior Cadets. In December 1915, Reid enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force. In order to join, he claimed that he was 18 years of age, when in fact he was only 17. He trained at the Army camp in Liverpool, southwest of Sydney, for several months, before embarking on the transport ship Ceramic in April 1916. Reid arrived in England in May 1916 and continued his training. In September, he sailed to France and joined his unit, the 20th Australian Infantry Battalion. After 6 weeks in the field, Reid had developed trench foot, a serious condition caused by prolonged exposure to wet, cold and unsanitary conditions. He was evacuated to hospital behind the lines and then to England. In hospital until early February 1917, Reid had avoided the trenches for most of the terrible winter of 1916 to 1917, which was the coldest in decades. Soon after his return to his unit in March, illness returned again. Reid came down with influenza and was hospitalised in France. When he returned to duty, the 20th Battalion was in the Somme Valley. Around this time, the British commanders shifted their focus from the Somme Valley to the town of Ypres in Belgium. The 20th Battalion moved north, with the men continuing their training while they were in the rear areas. In early September, Reid and his unit crossed the border into Belgium. The British then launched a series of attacks that are now known as the Third Battle of Ypres. The 20th Battalion participated in 2 of these attacks. At the Battle of Menin Road in late September, the unit succeeded in capturing its objectives. On the 9th of October 1917, the battalion attacked at Pole Capelle. Witnesses later reported that they had seen Reid and Sergeant Harold Sharp advancing across no man's land, taking shelter in shell holes. As they entered a crater, the sergeant realised that Reid had been shot in the stomach. Sergeant Sharp tended to Reid, but he died shortly afterward. He was 19 years old. Jack Reid was buried near where he was killed, but in the confusion of the battle and later counterattacks, the location of his grave was lost. His name is now engraved on the Menin Gate Memorial in Ypres, which commemorates 55,000 Commonwealth soldiers who were killed in Belgium and have no known grave. Reid's mother became anxious when she stopped receiving letters from her son, and after some months she wrote to Australian military authorities inquiring after him. It was only in early April 1918 that she received the official news that he had been killed. Reid's older brother also served in the Australian Imperial Force. Private Leslie Reid served on the Western Front with the 13th Battalion and returned to Australia after the war in June 1919. Private John Stanley Reid is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his name listed on the Menin Gate Memorial is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private John Stanley Reid, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
And the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening.